So here's a cold, hard truth. There are a lot of men out there using women. There are a lot of you who have been used by a man. And again, let's make clear that's not all men. All right. There's plenty of good, serious, well-intentioned men out there. However, there are men who are looking to take advantage and get what they can out of a woman. And I want you to always be aware of what you need to look at, because I've seen so many women get caught up in these situations. And though I firmly believe it's not that the woman doesn't see the red flags, but she struggles with embracing it or acknowledging it fully for what it is, because her desire to hold on to this man and make this relationship work kind of causes her to rationalize past her intuition. Now, notice I said her desire to hold on to this man. Here's a quick thing I want to mention before we get into these signs. And I say this with love. Sometimes you're using him too. All right? And what I mean by that is this. There are a lot of you who may have dated a man who you weren't really into. You may have been open to the possibility that things could eventually change, but as you stand, you knew you weren't feeling them like that. However, you may have wanted companionship. You may have wanted someone that helps you with your bills. You may have wanted sexual engagement, whatever the case may be. I'm not judging you, the men right now, nobody. I'm just explaining what it is. And so what I want to say is this. I'm not here to say that anyone should be taking that approach, but we can acknowledge or recognize that this happens. And if two adults, men and women, have decided that they want to deal with each other in honesty and transparency, and they're saying, listen, we may not see a future together, we're not serious about each other, but we enjoy each other's company, and this is what we want out of this situation, and y'all come to that agreement, that's what two adults do. That's your choice, all right? But know what you're signing up for. Be honest about why you're still there. And with that said, understand that not all quote unquote using is done with this malicious intent to hurt the other. I know that sounds like I'm trying to give like sympathy to the user, but I'm not. I just want everyone to understand that as human beings, it is very easy to get caught up in a situation and want to hold on to the certain benefits we are receiving from this person, even though we may not be fully confident that we want to be with this person or this is the person we can share our life with. All right. And it happens on both sides. And so if it has happened to you, do not internalize it in a way that you now dwell in it, but learn how to recognize these issues so that you don't get caught up and you can pull yourself out when you know this isn't best for you or this is not what you want in your life. So with that disclaimer now given, all right, let's move on to some of these signs of things that the man will do when he's using you. And the first one is he only treats you nice when he wants something. So this was very important for me to have on this list, because let me break it down like this. I've had so many sessions with women and with men, but let's talk about women right now, who are struggling to let go of a relationship. And one of the many reasons why they struggle to let go, even though they're not happy and they may know deep inside this is not the man for them, is they point to, well, we have good times. Well, we have good moments. Okay. And one thing about human nature is when we really like someone, we have a tendency to want to hold on to any ammunition we can or validation to feed our desire of remaining here. Plain and simple. We're looking for an excuse. Okay. And so what happens is the woman starts to overlook the fact that, yeah, you have good moments, but the consistency in the relationship is negative. All right. He's consistently bad and sometimes good. If anything, it should be flipped. He should be consistently good, but as human beings, we will have our moments of struggle. We will have our moments where we make mistakes. That's normal. And we should be willing to try to work through that when we understand this individual is consistently good. But let's get back to them being consistently bad. So he's consistently bad And you think just because he did something nice today, that means something. But let's go deeper. When he does even that nice thing, is it followed up by what he's trying to get out of you? So it's like, oh yeah, today he called you. He said all these beautiful things to you. Maybe he took you out. And then the next day it's like, can I borrow your car? Can you lend me some money? I need this favor. It's like, what's really his motivation? His motivation is manipulation. It's not love. It is not a desire to pour into you. It's a desire to get from you, and using these nice gestures to butter you up and soften you up so that he can get what he desires. So you've got to be mindful and aware of, is this man only doing good when he wants something? But again, regardless, the main issue is he's consistently bad and sometimes good. Listen, even some of the worst people can give you some good moments. All right. It doesn't change the fact that they're a bad person. It doesn't change the fact, or they're bad for you. All right. Or this is an unhealthy, toxic relationship. You've got to, not get lost in the happiness of that moment. And here's the other thing that happens. Because you're so starved and you're thirsting for that, to feel love and to feel intimacy with him and all these things, when he finally gives you that moment, it feels so damn good. It's like, you know, when you're real hungry and almost anything you eat tastes extra good today. It's like, is this really this good, or am I just this hungry? Okay. So many times in a relationship, what he even did wasn't that great. You were just that hungry. You just been that neglected. You've been starving for this attention so bad, whether it be from him or just a man in general. So you look at this little small thing as bigger than what it actually is. Now, I have to say, I feel the need to mention, when you're with a man who is consistent, I want you to appreciate all the small things, the big things, all of it. Because again, he's consistent. I just don't want you turning a blind eye to the man who is consistently bad, who throws in some good here and there. So anyways, the bottom line point is, the man who is trying to use you is using those good moments to manipulate you. He is going to tend to be consistently bad. He is, and he's only going to do what he's comfortable with. All right. And what he thinks, is good enough to get the result he's looking for, but he will not go above and beyond that. All right. But we're going to get more into that as the video goes along. All right. So let's move things along. The second sign, the second thing a man will do when he's using you, is that he will constantly prioritize other people over you. So I made a point to say people and not things, only because I want to leave room for the fact that I'm a believer and supporter of the idea that a man does not or should not prioritize a woman over his purpose. And from my perspective, purpose goes hand in hand with God, because that purpose came from God. So essentially, he does not prioritize that woman over God. This doesn't mean he neglects the woman, he dismisses her, doesn't mean he treats her badly. But we have to understand that purpose comes first, all right? And I think that's a good thing, that when you're with the right man, it serves the relationship in a positive way. So outside of that, all right, and also let me take it to a lesser level, because you have men who may prioritize work and what they're striving to achieve over you. And not to say that that is a healthy approach, depending on how they're going about it, because there has to be a level of balance that's found. Balance in the sense of giving you quality time enough to make sure that you feel good and are happy in the relationship, but also giving his dreams, his goals, enough energy as well. However, I don't want you to assume that just because a man prioritizes his work so highly and his dreams so highly, that it automatically means he's using you. Okay? So that's why I want to throw that in there. So now let me also say this. It does not mean that some men will use work and I got things I got going on as an excuse to neglect you. But notice that that man is using it to neglect your needs versus what I'm saying is the other guy may prioritize his job, but he's still trying to make sure you're good. All right. Two different things. But move on to he consistently prioritizes other people over you. So here's the thing. When a man is not serious about a woman, well, he's not trying to put her needs and desires over maybe even his homeboys. He's not going to prioritize her in regards to family. Hell, I've seen tons of situations where the man is giving more priority to his female friends, quote unquote. I don't know whether there's other stuff going on. Sometimes it's generally not stuff happening at that moment, but regardless, we can argue whether there's something brewing there. But the point is, I've seen situations where, yes, they have prioritized not just a female friend, but the female friends in general over the woman. When this is occurring, then yes, there is at least great reason to believe this man is just trying to use this woman. Now, I forgot to mention earlier, when we say use, what I want you to understand is this. I'm speaking of using from the perspective of, I want to gain these benefits from this woman, but I don't have serious intentions for her. Okay? And that's why I said earlier, if two people have that mindset, but they're being honest and they both agree to it, that's something different. But this is happening under the guise of he's not being transparent. You may be getting mixed signals, whatever the case may be, but he's trying to hold on to you because there's certain benefits, but he is not trying to be serious with you. This is what we're qualifying as using. So going back to prioritizing the friends and other people, yes, when he does not have that serious interest in the woman and he's just trying to get what he can get from her right now, well then yeah, the other people who've been in his life remain at the top of his list because he sees them in a more permanent way. He's not viewing you as permanent. He's viewing this as a temporary for as long as I can drag this out for, and that sounds horrible, but it's what happens, all right? But I know at some point this woman's probably going to be gone. All right. If I'm not consciously saying that to myself, subconsciously, the man understands that. So because of that, yes, he does not view the need to put her higher on the list of priorities. But here's another aspect of it to consider. One of the other reasons why a man may not prioritize you over other people, friends, family, whatever, other women, is because he may be playing the game of, I'm trying to keep you close enough to gain benefit from you, but I don't want you to feel too special or too high up on my list of priorities to where now you think I do want something more with you. And I know it sounds crazy. And again, it sounds crazy, but it's what's happening in many situations. Not all, I have to stress that, but it happens. It's happened to a lot of people. It's this game of, I want to give you hope that there's something here because that's what keeps you holding on. But I don't want to give you too much hope to where now you really think this is going to happen, or you're so confident to where now it puts him in a more difficult position, or you may start requiring more out of him than he's willing to give. At the end of the day, it's all jacked up. It's all messed up. But the point is, you want to pay attention to that because typically when a man is very serious about a woman, she becomes high on his list of priorities. Plain and simple. At least when we're talking about compared to other friends and families. We've seen guys who now they're, if anything, you can say neglecting their homeboys because they want to be with their girl. Okay. Now, now they're cutting off certain friends or not engaging as much with those female friends. They might be cool with them, but it's like, no, I got a girlfriend now and I want to be with her. This is what naturally happens when the man is more invested and serious. But when he's using you, it's the opposite. All right. So we got another one, of course. Let's keep this moving. And the next one on the list of signs or things a man will do if he's using you is he never or rarely pays. Now, I'm always bringing up the money issue because I think it's so prevalent. I think it's a real thing that you have to be mindful of. And I don't get tired of breaking this down. All right. And I've seen it plenty times where you have men dating women and willingly and intentionally placing higher financial burden on her. All right. So that's why I said either never pays or rarely pays. All right. The reason why this is such a sign of using you is because, again, when a man is really into a woman, there's a natural inclination to want to impress. There's a natural inclination to want to provide. And men know, like you see it on the internet all the time, men even complaining about how important money is to women. So despite how much they complain, the fact remains that when they come across a woman that they're really into, they're going to be more cautious at the very least of playing the game of making you pay or showing themselves not able to at least be stable financially in trying to get you because they know how much that can work against them. All right. So even the broke dude will try to act like he's not broke. Okay. So for the man to not even care, he's not even trying. He's just saying, nah, you got it. You take care of it. You're good. Now, this is very different than you. I'm going to use the word overstepping, all right, and initiating, well, I'll take care of it. No, I got it. I got it. That's on you. I'm not saying it's okay for him to sit back and just let you continuously do it, but I also can't call him out to just flat out be a user or a bad person because, yes, some people, if he is financially struggling and he wanted to try to make it work, but then you jump in and you're like, nah, I got it. It's very easy for some people to get comfortable with that and start just accepting it. All right. Especially when you're insisting. The unfortunate problem is not only do they get comfortable in those moments, but then it starts to become the natural dynamic of the relationship where now the assumption is you will get it. So please understand, if you do not want to be in that situation where it's always on you, be careful with how much you overextend yourself to provide for him financially. You still have to hold him at least to the standard of being able to take care of himself. All right. It's one thing for a woman to say, well, I don't mind at least taking care of my half. I'm not saying that's the way it should be. I'm saying if that's how you want to live your life, all right, so be it, right? But when it starts to become you are taking care of him, I think that's a huge problem. In most cases, there's exceptions to every rule, but in most cases, that's a huge problem. But going back to him never or rarely paying, yeah, you got to understand the mindset of the man who does that and what message that is typically conveying, okay? And it usually means he's just using you and he's going to get what he can. And if you're going to keep giving, he's going to keep taking. So be very mindful and aware of that. Now, before I go on to the next point, let me add a little bit more to this whole money issue. Because my videographer mentioned to me how he's experienced in his life where, a woman may start to become uncomfortable with the man paying all the time. So now she wants to, again, overextend herself. And I think, again, as a woman, you have to ask yourself, why am I making such an effort to pay now? Because for a lot of men, they don't mind paying. What they don't want is you taking advantage of their willingness to pay. What they don't want is you running them dry. What they don't want is you being inconsiderate of their financial situation. Outside of that, if they care about you, they don't mind providing and taking care of stuff. So when you interject and now you want to be the payer, what is driving you right now? Is it, oh, well, I don't want to come off as weak? Is it, well, I was taught not to rely on a man? Is it that I don't want him to think he has any kind of power over me? Understand that though it's reasonable or understandable why many of you have those types of mindsets, they they are unhealthy. Because they're usually coming from a very negative source. Like when women who have been taught don't rely upon a man, it is based off the idea that the man will use you, abuse you, do all these negative things. It is not based off the idea of he wants to just love you. And you know, or just being wise about, you know, it doesn't mean you don't need to protect yourself by creating some kind of financial stability for yourself, depending on the woman and what life you want to live. And there's multiple ways of doing that, even with a man who pays, that doesn't require you to overextend yourself. But again, you just have to understand, is fear motivating you or is love motivating you? Because I feel the need to say this. What a lot of men who are willing to pay, I'll say this. This may sound bad, but I'm just going to say it. What he would love more than you offering to pay that check is to give him some, you know what, right? Okay. And to do it the ways that he likes. That would make him way happier than you paying the check. Now, caveat, that's if you guys are already engaging in that way. I'm not telling y'all to go out there and use that as payment or anything. I'm just saying, if you're trying to show appreciation and show him that you care about him, well, the way he receives that is you pouring into the needs and desires that he has, not you trying to match things like paying for stuff. If he's a man who's okay with it, especially a man who's in a position where he can easily handle it. It's like, yeah, it's cool. It's nice that you wanted to pay, but if you're doing that and you're still not pouring into the other needs, it's not gonna mean as much as you think it will. All right. But again, I want to repeat, I'm not saying use sexual favors as like equal payment. I'm just saying that will put a bigger smile on his face. But anyways, I digress. Let's keep moving to the next point. Hey, thank you for watching this video. Be sure to check this one out right here, and I'll see you there. You know, one of the things I'm going to use the word hate to see are women in relationships with men who clearly don't respect them, who clearly don't love them. And